I know you guys, you ladies and gentlemen, have been waiting all week to get your thirst quenched. I know you've been waiting to hear what I had to say tonight. Why? Because you're my fam and I know how you feel about things. So without any further ado, I want to say we are live. I always feel like my own hype man. What's up, people? How y'all doing? Come on in, take a seat. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Yeah, that's right. When you come in, throw me a little, one of them little thumbs up. Let a black man know that you're here. Show me that love. Show me that love. It means a lot to me. You know it does. You know it does. You know it does. Ah, mama say, mama sa, mama musa. Uh-oh. Give me some heads up. Let me know. Everybody hear me? Am I coming in wall to wall, treetop tall? That's old school. Them brothers that used to have the CDs and carrying on. Yeah, right on, right on, right on. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. So anyway, I'm um I'm here. This was an interesting week, folks. Ain't too much happening on the political front. It's what I call the same old stuff. Um, it's them failing miserably, not being able to get anything done. So but I had a good week, and I'm gonna tell you why I had a good week in a minute. I feel like I'm doing my own cliffhangers, and I hate to do that, but I wanted to give a couple people a chance to come on in, make sure that everybody heard me or hear me, and all is well. So, how you folks doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How they say if you're happy and you know it, give me a thumbs up. If you're happy and you know it, throw me some hearts. If you're happy and you know it, shake it. Groove thing, shake your groove thing, yeah, yeah. Show them how you do it now. That's my musical interlude tonight. Who would name themselves Peaches and Herb? I guess in the old days, everybody knew somebody named Peaches. So anyway, what's happening, people? How y'all doing? Oh, love you right back. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Oh, my baby, baby girl, my baby girl to the third power is in the house tonight. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Yeah. So what's up, people? How y'all doing? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I feel like I should be doing a roll call. Yeah. Yeah. It's in a house without a doubt. So, seriously, how was everybody week? You know, this January, we halfway through January. We almost three-fourths of the way through January. Wow. I see a million people. Um, it seems like every week somebody's reporting who they know that's had Omarion, Omicron, and Decepticon, and all this other stuff. I don't talk about it for the simple reason is I don't want anybody to say I'm giving out false information. I made my predictions a year ago. I said you were gonna have a spike as soon as it got cold, and so forth and so on. So uh, nothing that has happened that has shocked me thus far. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, folks. We're 1 minute past the half hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. And you folks that are here, I appreciate you being on time. I know how hard it is for us peoples of color. I want to say good evening and welcome to the show. Thank you for spending your Thursday nights with me. As always, as always, as always, as always, I always say I'm truly humbled that all of the things you could choose to do on Thursday, you choose to be here with me, getting the word. Many have called this my calling, and I feel that way as well. My show is called OMITdaLOGIC. This shit makes no sense. And I'm your host, Hank Batiste. I'm your host tonight. The voices in my head are screaming, if not now, then when? If not now, then when? I've been doing this podcast for about almost 3 years, just a couple months shy of 3 years. And like most of you, it's a year ago today when we saw Biden go through his inauguration. We had so much promise. There was so much to look forward to. Understand? We listened to Lil Amanda, and I was one of those people who felt the trepidation because I felt like I didn't want to get my hopes up and then be let down. So I wanted to go into this with some skepticism. I wanted to go into this with my eyes wide open, and I wanted to continue to be both a cheerleader and a critic. So I pretty much did that. And then I guess along those lines, I made some predictions, and unfortunately, most of those predictions have come true, and I've been talking about that ad nauseum. I've been talking about that because I want you guys to know not just what I feel, but what's going on and why we should collectively feel this trepidation, but the sense of urgency as well. So we started off knowing that we were embarking on a new norm. In 2021, we were looking forward to coming out of our quarantine of 2020, and there was so much that we wanted to do. We were looking for a chance to get back and see our families, our chances to travel, a chance to just do some of the things that we had not done in almost a year, and some of us longer than that. We thought that having Biden in there, we thought that having a Democratic, and I hate using the word Democratic in respect to the Democratic Party, the Democrats, because there should be another name, okay? But I'm not going to go off on a tangent. But we thought with the Democrats having the White House, having a majority in the Senate, and having the majority in the House, that they would somehow deliver on the campaign promises of Joe Biden for the soul of America and building back a better America. Biden promised us that. We even saw the Republicans incensed and pissed at the failed coup d'etat attempt. We saw the Kevin McCarthy's. We even saw Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and all of these so-called noted Republicans pissed and incensed. And the most famous thing that I remember from the night of the failed coup was Kevin McCarthy saying, who the F does he think he's talking to? And within a few hours, shortly after the change of power. After verifying the delegates and the votes and formally naming Joe Biden the next president, what we saw was them start to pedal backwards. And since then, it's just been it's Charlie Foxtrot. For the first time in my lifetime, for the first time that I could remember, we saw the inauguration being closed to the public because domestic terrorists had stormed the United States Capitol and there were looming threats over the inauguration. And they still had fences and they still had 10,000 or more troops and National Guardsmen guarding the U.S. Capitol. And I, like you, like most of you, I was perplexed how our sophisticated intelligence apparatus and our law enforcement community was crippled by a few thousand radical extremists, domestic radical extremists, who were incited to overthrow the government. This past weekend was the Martin Luther King weekend. And I kept asking myself, what would Dr. King do if he were still here? I kept asking myself, what would Malcolm say if he were alive? Undoubtedly, Malcolm being a self-professed old farm boy, he would talk about the chickens coming home to roost. I started off as Biden's biggest supporter. And I realized that there were no more Martins. There were no more Malcolms. There were no more JFKs. There were no more RFKs. There was no more Thurgood Marshall sitting on the highest court in the land. So that collective group of imperfect, idealistic leaders, and I use that term loosely, because the people that we have leading today pale in comparison. So in looking at this, I decided to talk a little bit about that. The sacrifice leaders turn martyrs and ask the question, where do we go from here? So tonight's show is called, If Not Us, Then Who? My name is Hank Batiste. This is OMITdaLOGIC. This just makes no sense, but we're going to try to make sense of it. Let's do this. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's show, I want to give a shout out to those of you that answered my call, those Facebook family members who understood the assignment. I asked some of you to go in to weigh in on, to evaluate the first two shows that I did, the two podcasts of 2022. What I did not tell you, that I am a scientist. You know me, I'm Mr. Attention to Detail. You know me, I'm about perfection and I'm this, that, and the other. What I didn't tell you is that I was conducting a little bit of a social experiment. What I did not tell you is that I had an ulterior motive. What I did not tell you is I wanted to prove or disprove a hypothesis that I formed in my mind, that a lot of you say that you're not into politics. And what I wanted to prove or disprove to myself and then to you was that it's not that you're not into politics, it's just that you've been disillusioned, you've been let down, you've been time and time again. It reminds me of the little kid waiting around for the dad who never shows up. And that's been our experience with politics and politicians of today. So I wanted to prove that to myself because those people that I chose, I knew really cared. I knew they cared enough. Even though you say you're not into politics, you understand the challenges of this millennium. You understand the challenges of this decade. You understand what we are going through. And more importantly, I think that we collectively could make a difference. So what I wanted to do was not just get people to look at the podcast and hear what I had to say. What I wanted to do was reignite the fire in those folks that I know had not only the aptitude, but had the moral compass to start changing things around. Some of you have become disillusioned because you feel like despite your best effort, we are in this cesspool that we call America today. And I say cesspool because they called it a swamp. They call DC draining the swamp and swamp waters and what have you. Coming from Louisiana, I know that the swamp is loaded with all types of things to sustain life. So if we're going to clean up this cesspool, those of us who have the aptitude, those of us who have the morality or the moral compass, those of us who care enough to be incensed and angered, let's take that anger and turn it into motivation to make a difference. So that's why that was my ulterior motive for the assignment. And to those of you that got the assignment, I appreciate it. Shout out, big ups. To those of you who have not yet responded, I'm extending the assignment. But I want those of you that have responded, I want you to go a step further. I like some of those comments on YouTube. And the reason I would like some of them on YouTube because it encourages other people that don't know me to go and check out the podcast. Because let's face it, everybody and their mama and their dog Spot has a podcast today. And they're talking about a whole lot of things. But those people that are not getting tired, those people that have not been turned off by politics, those people that are energized and engaged today, unfortunately, are those people that are following the hate card and the white fright and the white fear. So I said all of that to say this. I need you guys to go to my YouTube. Even if you follow me on Facebook, I need you to go to my YouTube and put in some of those positive comments because I think that's going to be the motivating factor to get other people on board and their strength in numbers. So thank you. Big shout out. Let's move on. What happened to Joe Biden? Last week, I did an evaluation of Nancy Pelosi. And I started to do the same thing this week, but I decided to take it a little further. I wanted to talk about the duality, if you will, of this Joe Biden. There seems to be two. What happened to the Joe Biden that was Obama's hatchet man? It seems that Joe Biden forgot the assignment. It seems that Biden stopped working for the people and started to working at getting along with Congress. It seems that Joe Biden forgot the assignment that he's here. He's no longer there. They're no longer his colleagues. They're his subordinates. And until he reminds himself of such and start to behave as such, we're going to have this situation going on that we have going on. It seems that Joe Biden has forgotten his words of making billionaires pay their fair share of taxes. Billionaires made out like bandits during the pandemic. I keep saying this over and over and over again because I want you to understand. A man by the name of Elon Musk is about to become a trillionaire. And this man is talking about implanting those things in people's heads. This man is talking about interplanetary colonization on our dime. Meanwhile, roads and bridges here in America are falling apart. Meanwhile, social programs for people right here on Earth are falling by the wayside. It seems like the only campaign promise that Biden is persistent and hell-bent on keeping is getting along with both parties. He keeps talking about bipartisan support. Last week, I heard him call McConnell, well, he's my friend. Meanwhile, McConnell is ridiculing him. A friend of mine, or a so-called friend of mine, not even an associate, could ridicule me in public and me not retaliate, especially if they're here and I'm there. I'm gonna let you know that I don't need to be liked, but I will be respected. So I ask myself again, what happened to the assertive Joe Biden at the time as President Obama's vice president? That progressive Joe Biden. Instead, who's more interested in fostering friendship than pushing his vision for building a better America. Biden, who hit the ground running the first 100 days of his administration and doing things by executive order, but getting things done if necessary. That's what we need. We need Biden to fight with his former colleagues and expel those people out of the Democratic Party if they are not behaving like Democrats and they are sandbagging or torpedoing his vision for building America back better. We need the Biden that will push an increase for funding for the elderly, will push for funding for our children, will push for programs for the poor and disenfranchised. That's the Biden we need. Betty White said that Alan Ludden was the love of her life. Now, those of you my age and older, you know that Alan Ludden was the host of a game show called To Tell the Truth. And the whole premise of the game show was there were 3 contestants that appeared in front of this panel of celebrities, and they professed to be in this person. And the panel asked them questions or interrogated them to try to determine who was telling the truth. And at the end of the game show, after everybody had asked all of their questions and time was up, they would come back from a commercial and they would make a secret vote, a guess, based on their observations of who the real person was. And then Alan Ludden would turn to the 3 contestants and say, will the real? So if Alan Ludden was here today, he would probably turn and say, will the real Joe Biden please stand up? So I don't need the Joe Biden that wanted to get along with the Senate and did what he did to Anita Hill. I need the hatchet man who's going to get things done. That's what I need. That's what America needs. Let's move on. When democracy sails, part two. During the 60s, we had brave and perfect men who fought for a better America. There were men like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and LBJ. There are no more idealistic leaders today. We seem like everybody today is all about themselves, be it the Pelosi's or the Schumers or even Biden now. They're going along to get along. In the 60s, these men fought amongst themselves. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X had very different ideologies on how to move us as a race forward and for social disobedience. They often criticized each other, not by name, but by ideology. So they respected each other enough to not make it personal. One said, I don't agree. I believe in nonviolent disobedience. And another one said, by any means necessary. If I don't believe in violence, but if someone hits me, then I'm going to hit them back. And then Martin came back, he retaliated, well, an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. And Malcolm said, well, so we had these things going on. But after Malcolm left the nation, the two men had a meeting of the minds. And there's a famous photograph of Malcolm and Martin together. And it's one of my favorite photographs of all time. Then we had JFK. He fought for civil rights, and then he fought with Dr. King as well, because he felt like progress was going to move slower. It would take more time. They had these back and forth battles that was probably the motivation for Dr. King saying, if not me, then now. I mean, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? JFK was killed before he could get the Civil Rights Act passed. See, Malcolm idolized Elijah Muhammad, but Malcolm defied him too. And he infamously said after JFK's assassination, being an old country boy, in the morning, you let the chickens out. And in the evening, the chickens come home. So what happened, I see, is the chickens coming home to roost. And it was one of the reasons that Malcolm was supposedly silenced by Elijah Muhammad. And it was the beginning of the end of the relationship between he and the nation. Now, RFK, or Robert Francis Kennedy, was JFK's, John Fitzgerald Kennedy's, Attorney General. Despite the deals, the rumored deals, that Joe Kennedy, their dad, made with the mafia, Robert Kennedy aggressively went after the mob, aggressively went after the mafia kingpin. Being from New Orleans, there's a mafia kingpin by the name of Carlos Marcellus. Of course, he's no longer living, but if you watch the movie JFK, you hear all of this reference to Carlos Marcellus. On the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, unbeknownst to most, Robert Kennedy was in the federal courthouse in New Orleans trying to get Marcellus deported. Some say that was the perfect alibi for the strings that Marcellus pulled and having Kennedy assassinated. LBJ. LBJ doesn't stand for LeBron James. Contrary to what young people believe, LBJ stands for Lyndon Baines Johnson. Lyndon Baines Johnson was JFK's vice president. Why do I bring this out? It's because after JFK was assassinated, it was LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who got this passed. John Kennedy was assassinated on November the 22nd, 1963. LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, got the Civil Rights Act made into law in 1964. He was a former senator from the state of Texas who, while Kennedy was alive, he was Kennedy's strong arm, a hatchet man in the Senate, because he had been a former senator himself. Are you starting to tie this together now? So if LBJ could go on and get things done, then why can't Biden take a page from the LBJ handbook and disassociate himself as a friend from his former senators and work for America, the people, like he did the first 100 days? Mr. Biden, I need you to be more like LBJ. Merrick Garland is Biden's attorney general. So, Mr. Garland, I need you to be more aggressive, like Robert Kennedy, and go after some of these so-called domestic terrorists who were just exercising their rights when they participated in this failed coup d'etat. I need you to be more Robert Kennedy, and let's go along to get along and turn in the Attorney General's office into this revolving door of all talk, of all bark and no bite. Said America needs you to keep your eyes on the prize, folks, for the soul of America. Mr. Biden, I'm going to say this one time. You talked a good talk, and as a result of that, over 8 million people voted for you because we believed that you could do what you said you would do. And you've got. This is just your first year. It's not too late to turn it around, but I need you to be more of the hatchet man. I need you to unleash Kamala and send her over there to get things done. I need Kamala to become more of who you were during the Obama administration. And I need you to transition from the Joe Biden of the Senate to the Joe Biden of the vice presidency and evolve into Joe Biden, the president of the United States. America needs that. So, folks, that's all I got for you tonight. As always, I ask you to go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, give me some thumbs up. If you have subscribed, share my podcast with a friend or family member. If you haven't noticed, what I try to do is I go back to my YouTube and I try to edit out some of the nonsense, some of the warm up and some of the warm and fuzzy. I wanted to try something new tonight and just getting to the point, because one of the things people said is I danced around a little too much, waiting for others to come online. And it penalizes those people that show up on time. So I'm listening. Go to my YouTube. Give me some thumbs up. More importantly, give me some of those heartfelt emotions that you wrote about when I gave you the assignment of evaluating my podcast. If you haven't, each of my podcasts are about 30 minutes. That's my format, 30 minutes of meat and potatoes. Then I'm out of here. So I need you to go and check them out if you haven't done them already. If you have, refamiliarize yourself with them and share with someone. I said this before, don't be so afraid to die that you forget to live for a purpose. Because what we do is what our kids and our children's children and their children will inherit. Our ancestors, our parents, and our grandparents did their part. It's time for us to step up. I know we are tired of politics. I know we're tired of politics. I know we've been worn out. But the people that responded, what you showed me is that you have the aptitude and the morality to make a difference. So I'm challenging you to do just that. And it starts with the message that I try to deliver from week to week. So see you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. My name is Hank Batiste. This is OMITdaLOGIC. This shit makes no sense. But every week, every Thursday from 7:30 to about 8 o'clock, no later than 8:10, 8:15, we're going to try to make sense of it. As always, important, I wish you love, I wish you peace. And like the man, Calgary, I'm out of here. I love you. Ain't a damn thing you can do. Thank you for your support. Good night. Good night, people.